Take a moment to pull a dollar bill out of your wallet and look at it closely. At the very top of the bill, you will see 3 words printed in bold, capital letters. Federal Reserve Note. Most people look at this and assume that the Federal Reserve is a government agency. They assume it is like the Supreme Court or the Department of Justice. They believe it exists to protect the people and ensure the stability of the economy. But what if I told you that the Federal Reserve is not actually federal at all? What if I told you that it has absolutely no reserves of gold or silver in its vaults? And most shockingly, what if I told you it is a private bank owned by other private banks? The story of how this institution took over the United States is like a crime novel. It begins on a cold night in November in the year 1910. A private train car with all the blinds pulled down left New Jersey in total secrecy. Inside was 7 of the most powerful and wealthy men on the face of the planet. They represented the financial empires of J.P. Morgan, the Rockefellers, and the Rothschilds. These men were business rivals, but they had come together for a common purpose. They were traveling to a private hunting club on Jekyll Island off the coast of Georgia. They were so terrified of being discovered that they used only their first names. They told the press they were going on a simple duck hunting trip to relax. But they were not there to hunt ducks. They were there to hunt the American economy. For 9 days, they sat in a secret room and drafted the legislation for a central bank. Their goal was to create a banking cartel that would have a total monopoly on money. They wanted the legal power to print money out of thin air and lend it to the government at interest. But they knew the American public would never accept a central bank controlled by Wall Street. So they used a brilliant psychological trick to fool the politicians and the people. They called it the Federal Reserve to make it sound like a government institution. They claimed its purpose was to stop bank runs and stabilize the economy for the common man. They waited until December 23, 1913, to pass the Federal Reserve Act in Congress. Most of the congressmen had already gone home to celebrate Christmas with their families. While the government was empty, the bill was passed, and the trap was officially set. Since that day, the value of the U.S. dollar has been in a catastrophic freefall. A dollar from 1913 is worth only about 3 cents in purchasing power today. This means the Federal Reserve has successfully stolen 97% of your wealth. But how exactly do they do this without you noticing the theft? They use a hidden mechanism that economists call inflation. We are taught in school that inflation is a natural phenomenon, like the weather. We are told that prices go up because of supply and demand or corporate greed. But the hidden logic reveals that inflation is actually a policy, not an accident. Here is how the scam actually works in simple terms. When the U.S. government wants to spend money it does not have, it cannot just print it. It has to issue something called a treasury bond, which is basically an IOU note. The Federal Reserve then prints paper dollars out of nothing and buys these bonds. The government gets the cash to spend on wars and welfare programs. But the Federal Reserve gets the bonds, which pay interest. Where does the government get the money to pay this interest to the Federal Reserve? They tax you, the hardworking citizens of the country. So, every dollar printed is actually a dollar of debt that you and your children must repay. But the theft goes even deeper than just the taxes you pay. When more money is printed and injected into the system, the value of your savings goes down. If you worked hard to save $10,000 and the Fed prints trillions more, your $10,000 can now buy much less than it could before. This is why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer under this system. The rich own assets like real estate, stocks, and gold, which go up in price when money is printed. The poor and the middle class earn wages and keep savings in cash, which loses value. Inflation is essentially a hidden tax that requires no legislation and no voting. It transfers wealth from the people who work for money to the people who print money. Henry Ford, the famous industrialist, once understood this danger perfectly. He said that if the people understood our banking system, there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning. We are living in a system where unelected bankers control the fate of nations. They decide interest rates, which can crash the economy or create massive bubbles. They decide who gets bailed out during a crisis and who is left to go bankrupt. And despite their name, They are accountable to almost no one. The Federal Reserve has never been fully audited in its entire history. We do not know exactly what they do with their power or who they truly serve. But the results speak for themselves. Since 1913, we have had the Great Depression, massive recessions, and a national debt of $34 trillion. The creature that was born on Jekyll Island has grown into a monster that is eating the world. So the next time you hear a politician talk about fighting inflation, remember that the call is coming from inside the house. The institution claiming to fight the fire is the same one pouring gasoline on it. We have now reached the end of our journey through the hidden history of money and power. We started with Rome, went through the Templars, the Medici, the VOC, and finally, the Fed. The players change. The centuries change, but the logic remains the same. Those who control the money, control the world. But now that you know the hidden logic, you are no longer playing the game blindfolded. Knowledge is the only weapon we have against the invisible economy. If you have enjoyed this series and want to see more content like this, please subscribe and share this video with everyone you know. Leave a comment below. Do you think we should return to the gold standard? And if you missed any part of this story, check out our playlist to watch the entire history from the beginning.